Hello, welcome to Tobisonics. It is Tuesday, the 2nd of March, 2021. I hope the weeks have started well for each and every one of you, and that you're feeling happy and healthy in these increasingly crazy times. In this week's episode, we're going to be taking a look at a new plugin from Waves, the Crystal Epic. Mix with epic depth, complete reverbs and delays by Crystal. That is how Waves describes the CLA Epic on their website. The complete suite of Mix Legend CLA's 4 go-to delays and 4 go-to reverbs based on his best studio gear, all in one plugin that lets you blend, layer, and internally route the effects. I want to know if the CLA Epic is going to offer me something that I don't have already. So the way we're going to approach this is pretty simple. I'm going to load in a preset on the CLA Epic and then see if I can match it using the plugins that I already have. And for this week's episode, we're going to be using the production for my new single, Eye of the Storm. Before we get into it, if you could just take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my channel, that would be a big help to me. Thank you for taking the time. Here we go with a bass line from the chorus, and I've queued up a preset on the CLA Epic, Bass Roombience. And then opened up the Fabfilter Pro-R and found a preset called Slapback Ambience. Alrighty then, let's take the Fabfilter Pro-R and let's drop that into bypass. Let's take the CLA Epic and out of bypass. Let's have a quick look at what's going on. We've got ourselves a slap delay, 166 milliseconds on the delay time, 20% feedback and no modulation. And we've got ourselves a space reverb. Pre-delay is 20 milliseconds, decay time is 0.1 milliseconds, reverb 0.9 seconds, and again, no modulation. And everything is blended in at 37% on the wet dry. Let's have a listen to see if the CLA Epic is giving us something that Fabfilter Pro-R can't match. Straight off, there is a smoothness to the CLA Epic that I really like. It's got a really great kind of liquid metal T1000 effect that I really love on bass lines. It's giving a nice sense of depth. It's keeping that bass right there in the center, giving it a little bit more presence. The Fabfilter, I like that little bit of modulation it's brought into that. I like the little bit of shift that it's giving it. It's getting a little bit more depth on it, I think. It's probably giving it a little bit more size, but it's sacrificing some of the cleanness and some of the definition straight down the middle to do it. Next up, let's have a go at some drums. We've got the CLA Epic queued up with a gate verb preset. And then I've opened up the Valhalla Vintage Verb and selected the preset Big Ambience Gate. So drop the Valhalla Vintage Verb back into bypass. Let's open up the CLA here and let's take it out of bypass. Let's note one or two things. In the delay section, we've got ourselves the crowd effect going on, set to full wide. We've also got a slap delay. On the reverb side of things, we've got the space effect. If we have a look over the mute section, you can also see that we're doing stuff here with the A channel. Let's click on that. That's our plate. And here we go. The whole thing mixed in at 25% on the dry wet. Let's have a listen to the CLA Epic and see if it's giving us something that we can't get from the Valhalla Vintage. Straight away, we've got that smoothness that we noticed from the CLA Epic. It's cleaner, it's more precise. We've got more definition in the snare. I do like the dusty sustain that the Valhalla Vintage Verb was giving us on the snare, but you were definitely sacrificing some of the definition on it. With the CLA Epic, the snare is nice and clean, very, very sharp.
Future's bright, that's the neon lights. Demolition Man, put your dreams on ice. Said it's going down if they're seen on sight. Countdown started and we leave tonight.
Here we go with the lead vocal. I've dialed up a preset in the CLA Epic, and then I've loaded up the Eventide Ultra Reverb and called up the preset Male Vocal Plate. Right then, let's take the Eventide Ultra Reverb and let's put it into bypass, over to the CLA Epic, and let's take that out of bypass. Let's have a look at what's going on. We've got ourselves 2 delays working here. You can see by the mute buttons. We've got the slap delay. Then we're over to channel 4. We've got the crowd delay going 50% between tight and wide, right down the middle. And then one reverb, our plate reverb. And we've got ourselves a pre-delay of 188.5 milliseconds. Pretty long pre-delay there. And then everything's mixed in at 35% on the wet dry. Let's see if the CLA Epic is giving us something that the Eventide can't match.
Future's bright, that's the neon lights. Demolition Man, put your dreams on ice. Said it's going down if they're seen on sight. Countdown started and we leave tonight.
So far, I'd say that these two are by far the closest. I really like the sustain and the ring that the Eventide is giving it. I don't quite think you're hearing that with the CLA Epic. Again, the Epic is probably that little bit tidier, but when it comes to presence, there's not a lot to choose between the two. Finally, let's have a listen to the feature instrument, the Vapor Synth. I called up a preset on the CLA Epic Pad B3 Orbit, and then I stuck with the Eventide, and because it did so well with the vocal reverb, decided to stick with the Eventide Ultra Reverb, and here we go with a preset Shimmering Piano. Alrighty then, so that's the Eventide Ultra Reverb, and we'll put it in bypass, and we'll take the CLA and we'll take it out of bypass. Couple of things to note first, we've got ourselves 2 delays and 2 reverbs going on, and for the first time we've also got some routing going on between the delays and the reverbs. Let's have a look at our first delay. Here we go with the tape delay, and we've got some modulation too, 17.4 on the modulation, and they're both synced to 1/8 of a beat. Moving on to our next delay, we've got the crowd delay, full whack on the wide. Again, we've got some modulation, 17.4. And then if we go over to our reverbs, here we go. We've got the plate reverb, no modulation, 15 millisecond pre-delay, pretty short pre-delay. And then we drop into the space reverb. We've got a 2 millisecond pre-delay, even shorter. Not only that, but we've got a little bit of routing going on. So let's go back to our first delay, the tape delay. And here you go. You can see that the tape delay being routed to D, that's our space delay. And then if we go to our second delay, the crowd delay, you can see that that's being routed to A, which is our plate. Let's have a listen to it and see how it stacks up against the Eventide Ultra Reverb. Once again, the difference between the Eventide and the CLA Epic is not night and day. I like the shift and movement of what the Eventide's giving it. I like the way it's kind of sitting it up like that. And in a more sparse production, that Eventide effect would be very, very tempting. But I know that this production is very stacked. It's very busy. And I really like what the CLA Epic is doing for the synth. It's dropping it back a little bit. It's giving this really nice depth. It's like a quiet width. And I know that it's going to sit a lot more easily in what is admittedly a pretty congested production.
Future's bright, that's the neon lights. Demolition Man, put your dreams on ice. Said it's going down if they're seen on sight. Countdown started and we leave tonight. The future's bright, that's the neon lights. Demolition Man, put your dreams on ice. Said it's going down if they're seen on sight. Countdown started and we leave tonight.
Okay, last up, let's see how the CLA Epic compares when we have it across multiple channels versus different reverb delay combinations across those same multiple channels. So here we have the Fabfilter Pro-R on the bass, the Valhalla Vintage Verb on the drums, and the Eventide Ultra Reverb on the vocals and the synth. Let's switch it over so we have the CLA Epic on each one of those channels and see how it compares.
Future's bright, that's the neon lights. Demolition Man, put your dreams on ice. Said it's going down if they're seen on sight. Countdown started and we leave tonight. The future's bright, that's the neon lights. Demolition Man, put your dreams on ice. Said it's going down if they're seen on sight. Countdown started and we leave tonight.
The first thing that really hit me is just how much better the vocals sound with the CLA Epic. They really sit much nicer in the mix. They've got much more body. They're much smoother. That is really striking, particularly because one-on-one with the Eventide Ultra Reverb, I didn't think there was a huge amount of difference. But when you hear them in the context of a mix, wow, that is a big difference. And as we heard when we were doing it one-on-one, the synth sounds really good in the mix. It's got a nice sense of depth and width and movement. I really like the way it's sitting. The drums have got more weight on them. They feel a bit more bedded in. And the bass for me, not a world of difference in context of mix, but I think it's probably got a little bit more definition. Now that may well be because all the way through we said that the CLA Epic was just tidying up the sustain. It was just that little bit cleaner all the way through. All right, let's go back to that original question. Is the CLA Epic giving us something that we don't already have? Let's look at production first. In terms of production, I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, yes, there's no doubt that the CLA Epic has got a really nice sound to it. It's got this real smoothness to it. It's very clean. There's something kind of effortless about it. It's very, very tasty like that. Having said that, depending on what you're going for, there was definitely a lot of flavor coming from those other plugins. But does the CLA Epic give us something that we're not getting from our other plugins when it comes to mixing? And I think the answer is a resounding yes. The difference in quality on the vocals in particular, once you heard it in context of the mix, was really striking. And all that little bit of tidying up, that little bit of cleanness, just left so much more room for the bass, for the drums. The CLA Epic is every bit a mixer's tool. If you just do production, then you may or may not want it depending on how you like to use your reverbs. On the other hand, if you're also mixing your own productions, this is a very, very tasty tool to have in your toolbox. If you've enjoyed this episode, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for taking the time. My new single, Eye of the Storm, is out right now. Go have a listen to it. If you have any questions about the production, feel free to leave them in the comments below, or you can catch me on social media at Tobisonics. Thank you all for watching, and until next Tuesday, good night and good noise, stay safe and stay healthy.
Future's bright, that's the neon light.